All right, people, gobble, gobble. Welcome in another edition here of the Look Ahead. Joe Raineri alongside Teddy Covers. We're looking at week 13 in the NFL season. Kind of hard to believe as we get ready for week 12 to kick off early here on Thanksgiving, Teddy. But interesting week, Thanksgiving week. We talked last week about these games coming up. We talked about the New York Giants and the Cincinnati Bengals. And as that turned out, it was the one game last week that we actually circled and said this is a little strange here. And then, of course, Joe Burrow goes down, and now that number is through the roof. But it's interesting now. We've heard about the Baltimore Ravens and that game being pushed out of Thursday, of course, into Sunday. So this year is just so unlike any other year at this particular point. It truly is.
2020 has been unique.
Crazy.
That being said, what we do on this show with the look ahead lines hasn't changed at all. We have look ahead lines from last week. We have look ahead lines for next week. We'll have look ahead lines the week after that.
Yep.
And the concept here is we're getting a sense of what the market prices are for these two teams before this week's games get played. So we can see about the adjustments between this week and when the official openers come up on Sunday. And try to assess, A, are any of these lines we're looking at now, are they likely to move? Mm-hmm. B, where can we find value with the lines as they are? And C, what adjustments are the books going to make off of a single week's performance when we look at those numbers, the official openers when they come out this Sunday? So we go through the games. I'll give you my powering number for every game we got, and we'll break it down as best we can.
Not every game is gold here, guys, but Teddy and I look pretty smart holding a ticket with the Giants getting 3 points right now from last week, so that's what we're looking for. But we'll start with the Thursday, December 3rd game, guys. Again, week number 13. It is the Cowboys. They'll be traveling to those Baltimore Ravens now, who would have had some extra rest, but they won't. It's going to be a short week for them, though. Next week, Ravens playing Sunday against Pittsburgh. They're playing Thursday at home against these Cowboys. They're giving the Cowboys 7.5 points here. Teddy, what do your rankings tell you?
So my numbers are showing 5.5 point differential between these two teams.
On a neutral.
On a neutral. It's a short week. For the road, well, it's actually not. Dallas is going to have full rest, and Baltimore won't.
Right.
So it's not a short week for the home team. So I'm just going to get. That said, in general, we worry a little bit more about the teams that travel on Thursdays, but not if they played the previous Thursday. It's not necessarily a negative. So I'm going to factor in this year, in a year with no crowd and very limited home field edge, we're giving a point and a half. For the home field, unless there's some reason to give more than that. There isn't here. So if you give a 1.5 for the home field, that puts the Ravens at 7. It is worth noting, okay, Baltimore's had a COVID outbreak.
Yep.
All right, Dallas is playing a beatable team on national TV on Thanksgiving Day. The Cowboys look good and blow out Washington, or the Ravens look bad and get slapped around by Pittsburgh. 7.5 is not going to be the number.
Nope.
It'll come 7 or lower. So that hook, if you want to put the hook in your pocket now, there's worse bets to make than Dallas plus 7.5.
And you and I both know
I would argue with that.
There are Cowboy people right now watching this going, I'm taking the hook, man. Cowboys are winning outright. They're going to blow out Washington. Well, hold on before you do. Just hold on there. We'll go to Detroit.
Well, let me jump in. Just real quick, Joe.
Go ahead.
Because I moved to Vegas in '98.
Right.
And I remember trying to learn you're trying to absorb everything you can.
Right.
And one of the things that you're absorbing that first year is who are the public teams in the NFL. And Dallas is supposed to be a public team.
Mm-hmm.
20 years later, 23 years later, whatever it is, people are like, oh, the Cowboys are a public team. No, they're not. Dallas doesn't get any more money on any given week than anybody else. If Dallas is good, the public will bet on them. If Dallas is bad, the public will fade them. But there isn't this silent army of Cowboys bettors that are coming in every week and saying, you better bump your Cowboy spread up.
Yep.
Plus 7.5 seems a little bit rich to me. Although if Baltimore beats Pittsburgh,
yeah.
even if Baltimore beats Pittsburgh, they're going to say let down. If I'm making a bet here now, it'll be plus the 7.5 because I wouldn't be surprised at all if this comes 7 or shorter when the lines open on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't see any way that Baltimore is going to get credit no matter what the outcome is here in this weekend, this Sunday against Pittsburgh. You got the Bears, though. They got a Sunday night game, I believe. The Bears taking on the Lions here for Week 13. Chicago will be at home. Now, it's important to know that this is currently, as of taping, guys, this is off the board. We'll get Teddy's rankings and his numbers here in a second. Stafford, Swift might be back this week. We know that Galladay's out. Stafford always seems to be a question mark. The quarterback situation for Chicago, it does look like Nick Foles is going to be healthy enough to go. So it's off the board right now, but all things being equal, where would you have this in your numbers?
So let me start with this. So I have a 3-point differential. I have the Bears 3 points better than the Lions on a neutral. Okay. So at home, that puts them in the -4, -4.5 range.
Yep.
Chicago will be coming off a national TV game. And again, if you like them on Sunday night, plus the points, you may want to make 2 bets instead of 1 if they look good in that game. They cover Green Bay.
Yep, Green Bay.
Then
7.5.
If they're right in that game, they may well get support. The Lions, of course, have the national TV game. They'll have extra rest. National TV game on Thanksgiving Day. They'll have. We're talking about Sunday's games now. Just a 1 Thursday game next week. So they will have a little bit of extra rest. The markets tend to like that. But even if Detroit beats Houston, I don't think they're going to get a whole lot of love in the markets. There's no line. There's no look-ahead line for this game because of the concerns about Stafford's thumb.
Always.
Nothing to do with the skill position talent. I know Swift didn't play for Detroit last week. Galladay didn't play for Detroit last week. Amendola didn't play for Detroit last week.
Yep.
And Galladay's been downgraded to doubtful for this week. The other 2 are still questionable. But it's not on the board because of the skill position talent for Detroit. It's on the board because of the quarterback question for Detroit. Worth noting that the books, pretty much across the board, put lines up on the Chiefs game this week, despite not knowing whether it was going to be Foles or Trubisky, or who's the third stringer? Tyler Bray? I think Bray's the third
It's Bray,
stringer.
yes, that's correct, yes. Yep.
Yeah. And basically what the markets did, what the books did when they put this number out without knowing what the quarterback is tell us it doesn't matter who the QB is, their power rating's the same. Right. And I don't disagree with that. There's not Trubisky. If it's Bray, they're a little bit worse. But it's not like Trubisky or Foles going to move the needles for anybody.
Right.
They are what they are.
Keep an eye on that when that line opens up, guys. And the Cincinnati Bengals, we told you last week, we looked at the Giants line. It was Giants getting 3, then we lose Burrow, and then now all of a sudden Giants 6, 6.5, depending on where you're looking at. And right now, the Dolphins will be home right down the road from me here, welcoming in those Bengals next week, and they're going to be giving them double digits, 10.5 points here, Teddy, in Miami as Cincinnati travels a little further south here for next week.
That's right where my number is. I've got a 9-point powering differential between the 2 teams. When I get above a touchdown, I'm more likely to give a single point as opposed to a 1.5 or 2 for a home field edge. So my number would be right there, 10.5 for Miami. This isn't a game where I'm looking to so both teams, Miami's Miami played a bad game last week in Denver. If the Jets are going to win a game, it may well come this week against Miami. And if Miami loses that game, the market's going to crash on them.
Yep.
The market don't like Miami anyway. That said, the markets have already crashed on Cincinnati with the Burrow to Ryan Finley.
Yep.
We're seeing 4.5, 5-point adjustments, 6-point. I mean, again, the look-ahead line last week was Cincy -3, and I thought that was a bad line with a healthy Burrow.
Yep.
But what we've seen is a 9-point adjustment from the look-ahead line to the current line on Cincinnati, which tells us what the markets are thinking about on the Bengals with Ryan Finley behind QB. If they're competitive this week, if they beat the Giants this week, maybe we'll see a little bit more market support for Cincy next week. But I'm not convinced that'll be the case. Even if they beat the Giants, I don't think we're going to see bettors rush into the window to back Ryan Finley again the following week, because now there'll be ample film on him. And that first start versus the second start does make a difference when the guys are coming off the bench.
It should be noted, Tua did very limited in practice as of filming here today on Tuesday. You're not going to lose if Ryan Fitzpatrick's got to play one way or the other. I don't think you are. I mean, would you knock it down? Would you adjust it at all from Tua to Fitzpatrick?
First, what day of the week is it, Joe?
Today's Wednesday. Sorry, Wednesday. Good God Almighty. Wednesday, yes.
I know. Thanks you. It makes us all. Yeah, it's like, wait, what is it? Wednesday, Tuesday,
Wednesday,
Friday?
yes.
I don't know.
Wednesday.
The markets will like if Fitzpatrick becomes starting QB again. The markets will like it more than you upgrade Miami. Yeah. Even though we had this discussion about Tua last time, I didn't adjust my MMA number at all. I'm confident the markets will adjust if it's Fitzpatrick versus Tua. They're going to like Ryan Fitzpatrick more than the Dolphins rookie.
There is a team that continues to get a lot of professional money love here, that being in the Indianapolis Colts, Teddy. We've seen it. Markets really seem to love Indy. They are going to be traveling to Houston to take on the Texans next week, and they're going to be bringing 3.5 points with them. Houston taking on Detroit, first game on Thanksgiving here. What do you have the numbers at with these two teams?
So I've got a 4-point differential on a neutral field.
Okay.
Which will put it in that 2.5, 3-point range, 2.75, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's Indy -3. And Indy has been a very popular wise guy team. You're absolutely right. You worry a little bit about the spot for the Colts. Remember, they played a barn burner against the Packers last week. And they have a short turnaround revenge game with Tennessee this week that's supposed to be every bit as tight as the first one.
Yep.
Or not, the first one wasn't that tight. It was supposed to be a lot tighter. It's supposed to be, this is for first place in the division. Is for, there's plenty on the line.
Yep.
So it's back-to-back huge home games. And then I know it's a divisional opponent, but it's a step down in class divisional opponent on the road. You do worry about the spot next week for Indy. But this much I'm confident of. The Colts' defensive statistical profile is one that is attracting wise guy bettors week in, week out. And even if they get blasted this week, if they get blown off the field by the Titans this week, there'll still be market support for Indy next week. Mm-hmm. That said, Houston's the one with the national TV game on Thanksgiving. If they go in and look good against Detroit, and Indy is, doesn't cover this number, you're still not going to see a 2.5. It's not coming 2.5. It'll come 3 or higher.
Yep. That's right about where it should be. The team that I don't know how much the markets are going to adjust here. They started to fall in love with the Minnesota Vikings there a little bit. And then, of course, last week, the Dallas Cowboys took that shine off. Well, now Jacksonville will be heading to Minnesota. This again, week 13. And Minnesota is going to be giving Jacksonville 9 points in this game at home. What says you here?
Yeah, I've got a 9-point differential, so I might make it 10. The Jags are pretty rough right now. And they have Cleveland at home. They're going to the third-string quarterback this week. But Jacksonville's problems, for as bad as their offense is, their problems are, their defensive cluster injury problem is insane. Right. They have nobody left in the secondary at all.
Nobody.
And the markets realize that. It's not no one's sleeping on it. But you talked about the love for Minnesota. And there is love for Minnesota. There was love for Minnesota prior to last week. All those division games where they played the 3 division games in a row after the bye, and the Vikings took money in all 3 of them. Then last week, the money poured in against them, and Dallas was the better team.
Yep.
The Vikings were, defensively, they were horrific in that game. This week's game is likely to affect the market perception of the Vikings a lot. All right. The Vikings win against Carolina. They're back on track.
Yep.
And Minnesota's going to get market support. If they lose against the Panthers, this 10 might be a little bit high because the market's going to look at it. And now the Vikings have no realistic path to the postseason, and they're losing at back-to-back home games and losing games to teams like Carolina at home. And the markets are not going to be excited about the Vikings laying that lofty price against Jacksonville. So maybe the situation, if you want to back the Panthers this week,
then
make 2 bets, and take the Jags next week. But I wouldn't tell anyone to put their money on Jacksonville right now.
Yeah, I would avoid that. This is an interesting spot here. The Washington team, the Washington football team, is going to be traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers, Steelers had Jacksonville last week. Now they're going to have the Ravens, obviously, this weekend, it appears. And then they're going to be home taking on this team from Washington. And the Steelers are going to give them 11 points. Now, I don't know what you think of this Washington team, what your numbers show, but it's a tough spot for Pittsburgh coming out of this week against Baltimore. Always is.
And my number's right. I have a 10-point differential, and I'll give them 1 point for the home field, so it's right there. Okay. I mean, most at this stage of the season, we're not going to see that's why when we get the game, I'm like, what?
What?
Like Cincy laying 3 to the Giants last week. I'm like, no, that's not, even had Burrow been the Bengals starting quarterback this week, that number wouldn't have come 3.
Yep.
So when you see those ones that stand out, that's why the eyebrows come up and I go, whoa, let's pay attention to this one.
Yep.
But most of the numbers I expect to be fairly close by week 13. And if they're not, I'm surprised by it.
Yep.
But again, Washington, if they pull the upset over Dallas on Thanksgiving Day, again, a national TV game, maybe they get a little bit of love. The Steelers are a team that the markets are accustomed to them playing up or down to the level of competition.
Yep.
I would not anticipate Pittsburgh getting steamed up a lot higher, especially coming off the huge divisional game this Sunday for their game next week. I wouldn't think that the Steelers are a big threat to go off much higher than
that. Yeah. Regardless of what happens there with Washington. Your Raiders. We talk about this team a lot. Oh no, look at it. I'm looking. I didn't even read the team under it. Now I read the damn Raiders taking on the Jets. Look at that. Raiders, Jets, old AFL matchup here. Raiders traveling to MetLife. The Raiders coming off of a game they should have won against Kansas City at home, but that was last week. This is next week. 8 points is what the Raiders will be bringing with them to New Jersey to take on the Jets.
Now, why do you think the Raiders should have won that game? They didn't get stops. Whoever had the ball last was going to
No, but I'd have tried to take more time off the clock there in the end zone. Giving him less than 2 minutes to march down the field and stick it up your ass is just mind-blowing to me. But it's Mahomes. You're not going to be upset when you get the MVP of the league sticks it up your ass in the last play, last thing. But hell, they almost gave the Raiders 2 minutes too much time to come back on it. They scored that quick. So a little strange to me, that whole game. But the Raiders played well. The defense has always been an issue, always concerning. I don't know how concerning it's going to be against the Jets, though. They're 8 points.
And it's funny because the reigning, I'm thinking of Mahomes as the reigning MVP. No, he's the reigning Super Bowl MVP.
Super Bowl
Lamar
MVP,
Jackson's the reigning MVP. Yeah.
Oh, how's that working out?
I'll bet against Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. That's a good point.
A whole different story there. But it's the Jets and the Raiders. I have 11-point difference on a neutral. Put the Raiders going back east for an early start game. And that's something where I'll give 2 points to the home field there as opposed to 1. I say I'm going between a point and a half, too. So that puts my number at 9. The Jets are getting a little bit of market love. The Jets have played competitively each of the last 2 weeks. The Jets are supposed to have Sam Darnold back this week, which does make a difference. But the Jets are another team like Jacksonville. Cluster injuries in the secondary.
Yep.
Nobody healthy in the defensive backfield. And against a team like Las Vegas, that may well be a problem. If the Jets, again, even if the Jets beat Miami on Sunday, the markets are going to say, the Jets got their win. They're happy.
It's over. Yeah.
They're all going to exhale.
Yep.
So the number's not going to come a whole lot shorter. That said, I don't know how much the markets are going to love the Raiders with the back-to-back trips to the East Coast early start games.
Yep.
They're not going to like that either.
Nope.
So, I don't see this. The number will come in that 8 or 9 point range, and there's not a huge advantage to betting it now.
The New Orleans Saints and the new look New Orleans Saints taking on the Atlanta Falcons divisional matchup here. New Orleans 3.5-point favorites on the road against Atlanta. And I'm curious here. You had a chance to see Taysom Hill behind center. We had talked about last week, before we knew Hill, about Jameis and how we thought the Saints might actually be a little bit more potent there on offense with Jameis, but that went out the window shortly after we taped last week when they announced Taysom Hill as the quarterback. What did you see? What did you like? And how have you adjusted, if at all?
So my priority for New Orleans, I said I wasn't moving it down off of Drew Brees.
Yep.
I didn't move it down off of Taysom Hill either.
There you go.
I haven't changed it one bit. Same number.
Yep.
I've got a 6-point differential between these two teams. Who are the Saints playing?
Atlanta.
The Falcons.
Yep, Atlanta.
Right. So if the Falcons were no-shows last week, okay, in New Orleans, there were no-shows in that game. Matt Ryan got sacked 8 times. They never reached the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the game, I heard 40, and I read 40 different columns about how great Taysom Hill was, and maybe they watched a different game than I watched.
Not in the first
Taysom
half,
Hill was okay.
He wasn't. Sucked in the first
he was
half.
Awful. Taysom Hill in the first half. I was ready to. I mean, again, did you have a bet on New Orleans? Because I had a bet on New Orleans. My clients had a bet on New Orleans. In the first half, I'm about ready to punch Sean Payton and say, "What are you doing?" Get Jameis in the game. And Hill found a little rhythm in the second half. He made a couple of plays. He didn't, but those were that first red zone trip.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you're like, oh, no,
Atlanta dropped 2 surefire intercepts. There were a couple of balls should have been intercepted. I mean, it went every possible way for New Orleans there, but less than stellar as far as I'm concerned.
It's important to note.
Mm-hmm.
So the Falcons didn't show last week, coming out of the bye, losing team, coming off a bye, no show.
Yep.
They don't show this week against the Raiders. The line, it doesn't matter what the Saints do in Denver. They can lose straight up.
Yeah.
They can win by 5 touchdowns.
If
Atlanta stinks this week, the markets are going to crash on them.
Big time.
What's that number now? 3.5?
3.5, yeah.
Yeah, that might be one to target if you like New Orleans. Washington plus, and again, we're talking about the hook. So we're not, I'd much rather give you a 3. Say, okay, this 3 now.
Yep.
We talk about the hook, the half point for newbie bettors, the hook of the half point. So we're talking about the hook off of 3 and the off of 7. Those are often really important to capture. Like I said, I've got a 6-point priority differential. I don't have Atlanta with a huge home field edge these days.
Yes.
If the Falcons look bad, if you're betting the Raiders this Sunday, maybe you bet the Saints next Sunday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's only going to go one way there. Cleveland will be traveling to Tennessee, taking on the Titans. And we talked about Tennessee this week, a rematch of sorts there against Indy. Next week, they'll be at home welcoming Cleveland, and they're going to be giving Cleveland 3.5 points. Interested to hear your ratings on this Cleveland team here on the road.
3.5?
3.5. Tennessee.
That's one to bet now. That's your ding, ding, ding.
There it is. There's the face. 3.5 points is what Tennessee is giving.
So I have a half-point differential in my power ratings.
Oh, shit. Okay.
You can make an argument that Cleveland's a better team. Think about what happens this week. All right. Tennessee, tough game at Indy.
Yeah.
Cleveland, easy game at Jacksonville.
Yep.
If things play according to form, there's no way this comes 3.5. It comes 2.5 or lower.
Absolutely.
So, that's one that we had a couple that stood out a little bit. This one stands out where where it's at least in my opinion, it's at least a point off around a key number.
Yes.
So you're like, all right, well, take Dallas plus the 7.5, or that one may come 7. This is one you can get a 3.5 in a game that I don't think is going to come line higher than 2.5, and that point is a pretty big point between 2.5 and 3.5.
Huge.
It cost you.
Yep.
Yeah, if you're trying to buy from 2.5 to 3.5, it'll cost you 50 cents worth of juice. So it's significant.
Do it now. Talk to me about the New York Giants here. We told you about Cincinnati, of course, this week. They've now won 9 points. Now they're a favorite of close to a touchdown. They're going to be traveling West Coast, taking on Seattle next week. And Seattle, another hook game here. 7.5 Seattle is going to be giving the New York Giants, who, if they can do anything, they can play some defense at times. I don't know if I trust the offense against Seattle, but 7.5, how do you have it?
7.
7. Okay, so close.
So it's not but there's been, we're not going to call it irrational exuberance. let's call it significant support for the New York Football Giants in the market this week.
Big time.
The market, and there was some support prior to the bye for the Giants as well. So if they win this game this week in Cincinnati and look good doing it, that hope won't be there. Not likely to be there. Although, I mean, Seattle's one of these teams right now that number one, they're playing Monday night this week, right? At Philly.
That's correct.
Yeah. So they get the national TV game. They get a lot of love in the marketplace already.
Yep.
And they're a pretty freaking good team that's getting better. On defense, they're getting better.
Yep.
You know. So I say you got to run and grab the 7.5 now, not necessarily.
Right.
You know, and of course, if the Giants, let's say they lose straight up in Cincinnati.
Where's that number going?
Yeah, it's not going to, you know, so the 7.5 is not one of those, all right, yeah, you got to grab it now.
Right.
Even though my number's, you know, right there in that same range.
No, it's close. And then, of course, we'll stay out west. How about the Rams? The Rams taking care of business on the East Coast in Tampa and Tom Brady. Now they're going to go back on the road next week against Arizona, and it's almost, 1 point. Arizona is going to be a favorite in that game. 1 point. Wait for it.
Well, I mean, my number has the Rams that should be favored by a half point or a point in that game.
Yep.
That said, we're likely to see market adjustment. You know, I mean, the Rams have San Fran at home this week. They're laying a touchdown.
Right.
If the Niners give them a battle, they're going to call it a tough divisional game. If the Rams blow them out, we may see a little bit more LA love. In this, we might. The Rams are one of again, they have the defensive numbers that the wise guys look for. So if the Rams blow out in San Fran, I'm not saying they're hot in the markets, but coming off the bye, they've been a lot healthier. I expect to see some 49er support in the markets this week. Arizona going to New England is likely to affect the point spread more than the Rams game. If Arizona doesn't, it goes up to Foxborough and looks like a confused team, you know, and Belichick outsmarts them. There may well, the markets aren't going to crash on Arizona.
No,
it's not happening. But
no,
I don't know they're going to get the same level of support that they've been getting in recent weeks. So, and again, at 1, I'm not that worried about grabbing the point spread when something's at 1. Because you bet
divisional game. It's they know each other.
The number doesn't again. My number has the Rams favored, but it's not by any wide margin. And see, I told you that the sunlight would come, like during the show, the sunlight would move itself out of the picture, and it's done that now. So
look at that, and all of a sudden, Teddy was on fire earlier, and now all of a sudden, look at that, he's back there. There we go. Look at him, bringing it all lit up now. He's good to go. All right. So let me ask you this, because this team just confuses me. The Green Bay Packers next week, interesting game we talked about this week. Next week, they're going to be back at Lambeau, welcoming in the Philadelphia Eagles. And, it seems like the markets keep waiting for the Eagles to turn this corner. And I keep reading articles, Teddy, about how, well, the Eagles, the NFC least, they're still the team to beat. They're going to be going to Green Bay. Green Bay is going to give them 6.5 points here. Two teams, very confusing. What do you think? What do you have it at?
So that's my powering number, 6.5.
Is it really?
It's right on, spot on. I've got the. Now, Philly's playing Monday Night Football.
Yes.
Against Seattle. They pull the upset, there'll be market support for the Eagles. There's already been, as you mentioned, a fair bit of market support for the Eagles. Yep. Green Bay's got Chicago on Sunday night national TV game.
Yep.
The Packers have had for all the success Green Bay's had, the one problem they've had all year, they haven't moved the ball well against good defenses.
That's right.
Bears have a good defense. Say what you want about their offense. So Green Bay struggles, Philly pulls the upset.
Oh, boy.
Maybe the 6.5. And you've talked about the Eagles getting a fair bit of market support. There has been. Philly's gotten healthier, and the markets keep saying, well, Philly's healthier now. Carson Wentz can't be this bad again.
Every week.
Yep. Well, Wentz, so first 10 games of his season, sacked more than 40 times, thrown more than 10 or more INTs, lost 10 or more fumbles. Only happened twice in NFL history. David Carr.
Oh, okay.
You remember when he got drafted by the Texans and they put him back there without any offensive line? He got annihilated in every single game.
Yep.
And Carr was never the same quarterback.
Nope.
The second guy who's done that is Carson Wentz this year.
That's crazy.
I don't think Carson Wentz, he may not ever be the same quarterback. You cannot put a guy back there behind an offensive line with no receivers, no anything, and say, go make plays.
Yeah.
You know.
And cluster injuries across the board. No offensive line. All his skill position. The guy's gun shy now. He's got the yips back there half the time.
It's inevitable. You can't not get the yips.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, so that line's more likely to come 7. You know, if things go according to form, if Green Bay wins, let's say they just win, and if Philly loses, I mean, you know, at 6.5, it's if you like the Packers, I wouldn't hesitate to
get it before
here.
Right.
I would say it's more likely to come higher.
Yep.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this. Talk about reality versus perception versus reality. And the perception of the New England Patriots is Bill Belichick. They're going to be there in the end when it matters the most. Well, they're taking on a team, the Chargers, that the perception is bet them in the first half because in the second half they ain't going to win. They just ain't going to win. Bet the Chargers in the first half only. L.A. will be at home, giving New England 1.5 in this game next week.
Yeah, so I've got a point. I've got a points with the differential, which puts the Chargers in. And the Chargers are one team I ain't giving 1.5 for home field.
Whew.
Oh, yeah. They haven't earned it. They get a point.
Yep.
That makes my number. That makes my number 2 for this game. So not far off. That said, the Patriots game this week. Okay, and New England has Arizona. They're short home dogs. If they lose that game, that will be their 7th loss. They will not be a playoff team, and the markets will crash on New England.
Hard.
If you like Arizona this week, you may want to make 2 bets against New England because you'll be getting the best of the number. Because I'm telling you that we're going to see the markets crash. On the Patriots. They lose at home on Sunday.
Denver will be traveling to their longtime nemesis there, Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs at home will be laying 13 points to this Denver Broncos team, and they played pretty well against Miami at home. On the road, what do you think here with Luck and company?
14.
Yeah, spot on. There you go. All right.
My number's 13 points in a neutral. I'll give them the 1 point home. When we talk about the bigger spread differentials, I'm not giving 2 points. I'm not giving 2.5 points. I'll give a point. So my number's 14. If Denver pulls the upset over New Orleans, all right, on Sunday, that'll be back-to-back wins for the Broncos, and they may get a little bit of market support. But no one's fading the Chiefs.
Nope.
KC is, it's just one of these teams. And even if they lose at Tampa, let's say they get killed at Tampa. All right, they lose that game, 45-3. Mark's going to say, bounce back spot for Kansas City. They're not going to say the Chiefs team's no good.
Yes. Yeah, that's correct. And they'll say bounce back for Tom Brady. It ain't moving with the Chiefs. No matter what happens, it ain't moving. So they ain't going to get any love either way. Monday night. December 7th, it will be the Buffalo Bills, who had a bye week last week, back in action this week, taking on the 49ers next week. And the Bills are going to be road favorites, 2.5 points on their way to San Francisco, to Bay Area. How do you have these two teams ranked right now?
I got Buffalo 3. And I've upped. There's something I don't often do.
Interesting.
I'm normally going to up my power ratings based on results.
Okay.
For the 49ers coming out of their bye week, because they're getting so many key guys back,
right.
I upped my power rating on San Fran ahead of the game. My number was way off the market number. And the stuff, I've been reading nothing but positives about San Fran.
Okay.
Coming off the bye and all of that. So I've upgraded the 49ers in a way that I don't normally upgrade teams coming off a bye. soon because they have all these healthy bodies.
Yep.
Coming in. But who are they playing again?
Bills.
Oh, Buffalo.
Yeah.
So Buffalo is they have the Chargers this week.
Right.
They're coming off the game against Arizona, in which they lost on the Hail Murray, and then the bye week.
That's right.
And they're supposed to take care of business against the Chargers this week. And if they don't, the markets have been tepid on Buffalo. They've been a little bit of support, but they're not like, oh, this team's a real Super Bowl contender. They're not the second coming. They've been, we kind of like them, but let's tap the brakes a little bit. Issues with the Bills' run defense in particular.
Absolutely.
Have been problematic all year. If they lose at home to LA this week, I don't know. We're going to get a whole lot of love for Buffalo, but the public's still going to like the Bills in that game.
Yes.
And for Monday night, you do want to be, take that into consideration.
It's interesting when you looked at it. And next week, guys, buys for the Bucs and the Panthers. They'll be off next week. When we look at these teams that have received some support, market support, certainly from some of the pros there, they all seem to have that same MO, right? Defense, good run defense, solid. They trust the defense more than they necessarily trust the offense. We see that with Indy. It's interesting here with the Buffalo Bills because they haven't really gotten that kind of great team. They've got a lot of great pieces. Certainly offensively, I think they can score on anybody, but that defense has prevented the market from fully going all in, pushing the chips in on Buffalo.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the offensive teams are the Joe's teams, and the defensive teams are the pros teams.
Absolutely.
It's been that way as long as I've been in Las Vegas.
Yep.
And that's how oftentimes, the Joes and pros also split on the worst teams. At this stage of the season, the Joes are like, there's no way I'm betting the Jets. There's no way I'm betting the Jags. There's no way I'm betting any of these crappy teams.
Right.
And the pros are like, look at this amazing value on the Jets, and look that you covered again last week, and they won't hesitate. So that's the two pretty big differentials at this stage of the campaign. But there's no question when it comes to which teams are more likely to receive wise guy support. It's going to be the defensive-minded teams as opposed to the offensive-minded teams.
Yep.
That's and that as we get into December and the weather of December and all of that, that becomes even more the case.
Big time. Yep, big time. That's why this weekend's games are going to be very interesting. But again, this was week 13, guys. It is the look ahead. So you do have a couple of opportunities here to keep an eye on some correlating bets. Maybe the best thing to do, though, is to head over to sportsmemo.com, WagerTalk.com. Teddy, of course, the ability for you to take advantage of the Black Friday special right now at Sports Memo, at Wager Talk. You get a full year. You never got to worry about missing a play here with Teddy. You get like every one of his damn plays for 12 months. Turns out to be like just over $19 a week for 52 weeks, guys. You cannot go wrong right now at sportsmemo.com and wagertalk.com. Get over there and get in Teddy's corner and start making it a profitable end to this year. And then, of course, a new beginning in 2021. It's going to be a lot of fun, Teddy. Best of luck, obviously, to your plays, as always. And you and the family, a very safe and happy Thanksgiving. Hope you guys will hit like. Hope you'll go follow Teddy. And I hope you'll come back and join us again as we look forward to week 14 next week. So happy Thanksgiving. Best of luck. We'll talk to you guys again soon.